दोनों आने से. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats as the chief guest is expected to arrive shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, I would again request you to please take your seats now. Ladies and gentlemen, I would really appreciate if you could please take your seats now. Ladies and gentlemen, you're requested to kindly settle down as we're about to start today's proceedings.
सर आप बैठ जाइए बस मैं भी काटा हूँ उधर से
I would request all the participants to please keep Ladies and gentlemen, you are requested to kindly settle down. The Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka have arrived at the hotel.
अतर साहब से अतर साहब आवाज़ दूँ सर एक तो ये आपके पीछे व्यू है पीछे तबा साहब के साथ काम करते हैं वहाँ पे आप बताएंगे कि सर मैं कैसे
I would request Honorable Mr. Abdul Razak Daud, Advisor to the Prime Minister on Trade and Investment, to please take his seat on the stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I request you all to please rise as we welcome our chief guest for today's event. His Excellency Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Islamic Republic of Pakistan, and His Excellency Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, the Prime Minister of Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. National Anthem of Sri Lanka and Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellencies, do I have your permission to initiate the proceedings for the day? Thank you very much, sir. Our chief guest, His Excellency Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, His Excellency Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksa, the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ministers and State Ministers, esteemed business delegates from Sri Lanka and Pakistan, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good morning, Ayo Bhuvan. Welcome to the first ever Pakistan-Sri Lanka Trade and Investment Conference organized by the Ministry of Commerce Government of Pakistan in collaboration with Trade Development Authority Investment Pakistan and the High Commission of Pakistan in Sri Lanka. To officially start the day's proceedings, I would like to invite His Excellency Major General Retired Muhammad Saad Khattak, the High Commissioner of Pakistan to Sri Lanka, for his welcome remarks.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزع الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. In the Holy Quran, the Allah Almighty asks the Holy Prophet, peace be upon him, to say, Our Allah, the owner of sovereignty, you grant kingdom to whom you will, and you take back kingdom from whom you will. You give honor to whom you please, and you disgrace whom you want. In your hand is all the good. Surely you have all the power over all things. Sadaqallahul Azim. His Excellency, Honorable Prime Minister Imran Khan, Prime Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Honorable Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa, respected dignitaries, esteemed businessmen, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. It gives me a pleasure to welcome this large presence of businessmen as well as government officials of both countries at the Pakistan-Sri Lanka Trade and Investment Conference organized by the Ministry of Commerce, Trade Development Authorities of Pakistan, and Board of Investment of Sri Lanka with the High Commission of Pakistan in Colombo. It clearly reflects our common desire for sustained socio-economic development of our people through mutually beneficial bilateral trade and economic ties. Ladies and gentlemen, the Pakistan-Sri Lanka relationship is deep-rooted, time-tested, and proven. The two countries stood by each other in the most difficult periods of our short history. It's of that relationship are translated towards the economic development of our two people. A change of focus from defense and security-centric relationship towards greater economic, social, and cultural engagement is the need of the time. The two countries enjoy strong historical trade legacies dating back to the period of Ashoka, the Buddhist civilization in the region, and the recent British colonialist period. These historical bonds need to be built upon to the benefit of our two people. Our free trade agreement signed in 2005 need to be fully utilized to exploit the true potential and capacity of our countries. I am very hopeful that through the showcasing of our investment opportunities today, we would not only assist our business communities in enhancing our traditional imports and exports between our two countries in our respective areas of strength, but will also open new avenues of joint ventures between our businesses in various high potential areas such as textile, manufacturing, pharmaceuticals, agriculture, information technology, and most important, tourism, including the religious tourism. The development of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, new available pedestal to further accelerate our bilateral economic engagement for mutual benefits. I hope that the bureaucracies at both ends would come to the vision and leadership that the two countries are bestowed with right now. In the end, ladies and gentlemen, there is no doubt that Pakistan and Sri Lanka enjoy excellent relation, but today it is time to move closer to new areas and further cement our relationship. I thank you all for your presence here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. May I now request the Honorable Advisor to the Prime Minister of Pakistan for Commerce and Investment to share his views with the distinguished guests, Mr. Abdul Razak Daud, ladies and gentlemen.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. His Excellency Mr. Imran Khan, Prime Minister of Pakistan, His Excellency Mahinda Rajapaksa, Prime Minister of Sri Lanka, Honorable Ministers from both Sri Lanka and Pakistan, distinguished guests, respected members of the business community, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and a pleasure to be here at the Ministry of Commerce. The aim of this conference is to bring the business communities of the two countries together to be able to discuss and explore new ways, new ideas of finding new avenues and new opportunities for increasing. The presence of the two prime ministers and the high dignitaries from the two countries is a testament of the importance the two governments are attaching to the trade between our two countries. And this is a wonderful feeling. Fellow businessmen and businesswomen, under the leadership of our Prime Minister, we have come here not to fear the future, but to shape it. And we feel that such conferences as this will begin the shaping of that future. Also, in shaping that future, I would like to raise a few points. We signed an FTA with Sri Lanka in June 2005. Since then, our exports have doubled, and our exports are now around $400 million. This seems good, but I honestly feel not good enough. It doesn't match the relationship that we have between our countries, and I feel that it should be much, much better. To further that trade through the FTA, we had a very constructive meeting with the trade minister today, and we discussed all elements of the PTA and the ideas of including services and investment as part of the FTA. We will be meeting again in April, and inshallah, we want to take all the points, their points and ours, and be able to implement them from our side in our budget in June this year. Ladies and gentlemen, an important and an interesting challenge, and a far-reaching one, is what I want to now talk about. Under the direct patronage of our Prime Minister, the Ministry of Commerce has been interacting extensively with Afghanistan and Uzbekistan on opening trade routes, free movement of trucking, and a PTA with each of the countries. Also, we have offered both the countries lease facilities at our ports at Gwadar for staging their exports beyond Pakistan. In the same manner, Uzbekistan has offered Pakistan a staging facility inside Uzbekistan at Derzmir, so send our goods and be able to go beyond Uzbekistan into the Central Asian republics. In a similar manner, we discussed with the Honorable Trade Minister today that why should we not look at offering the same facility to Sri Lankan businessmen, to the Sri Lankan government, that they open a facility at Gwadar, so that means exports from Sri Lanka can reach Gwadar and from there go beyond to the Central Asian republics. and China. This movement of goods under the CPEC is a futuristic opportunity, and I feel for both businessmen of Sri Lanka and Pakistan. It is a new frontier, and the government is very, very keen that it should develop. I would look at this as an opportunity, a great opportunity that awaits us, as long as we have the courage to keep moving forward with determination. Ladies and gentlemen, the third area is I want to talk directly to the Sri Lankan business people and to say, do look at Pakistan. Pakistan is now has changed. In the last 2 years, in spite of COVID, we've been able to improve our current account deficits. We've been able to build our reserves, improvements in our growth of investment. Just last year, we got foreign investment of $2.5 billion. Today, I speak to you as a businessman. I can assure you, today, Pakistan has made a very dramatic turnaround, and the country is now in a rapid industrial growth right now. I appeal to the business community of Sri Lanka to take advantage of this opportunity. Things are dramatically changing, and as a businessman, please come over and take your share of the investment. How has this dramatic change come about? Well, one very important factor was that our management of the COVID crisis under the direct supervision of our Prime Minister has shown a remarkable turnaround. I now say finally that we stand at a moment where our capacity to change our economic relationship is unmatched. What an incredible privilege that is for all of us. I hope that the B2B meeting will be successful, and that and I can assure you that this conference will be followed by more, and including perhaps Pakistan having a single country exhibition here in Colombo. And we would invite all the business people to come to Pakistan, and please do come and feel the pulse of industrialization that is going on. To conclude, the business community of both countries, we must not accept the current level of economic relations. We must imagine what that future relationship might be, and then work hard towards that future. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the Prime Ministers of the two countries for gracing this occasion, thank the dignitaries and the ministers from both sides. And also, I would like to thank the Ministry of Commerce and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan, who I know have worked very, very hard to prepare for this conference. And finally, I hope that the B2B sessions that will wish them every success, and I wish to welcome the businessmen from Sri Lanka to Pakistan, and let us together economic relationship. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency. May I now request the Honorable Mr. Makhdoom Shah Mahmood Qureshi for his remarks. Minister of Foreign Affairs of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen.
Prime Ministers, Ministers of the Cabinet, participants of the first Pakistan-Sri Lanka Trade and Investment Conference, thank you. Thank you for participating in this first conference. I recall a year ago, we held a similar conference in collaboration with the Ministry of Commerce in Nairobi, Africa, in line with our Engage Africa policy, and it led to 7% growth in our bilateral trade in 1 year. So the potential, as the advisor of commerce was saying, is there. To improve upon it, how to include new sectors into it to draw maximum benefit from it. When Prime Minister Imran Khan took the reins of government, all our economic indicators were pointing in the wrong direction. In 2.5 years, we have achieved, to a large extent, economic stability. And now, the Prime Minister is directing us to focus on growth, and that can only come through investments and enhanced bilateral trade. Pakistan has moved up a number of ranks in the ease of doing business. Prime Minister's government is facilitating investments in Pakistan. Incentives have been given to a number of sectors, particularly real estate and housing sector. Our focus has shifted from geopolitics to geoeconomics. We feel so located that we can take advantage of our geographical location. And we want to make Pakistan into a hub for economic activity. It's possible. It's doable. Our focus is peace activity. CPAC is one example of that project that links regions and provides that regional economic connectivity that promotes trade, that promotes investment, is there to assist, to facilitate, and the focus of the Foreign Office under the directions of the Prime Minister Imran Khan is economic diplomacy. Ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to come to Pakistan, and you will see be for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. It is my privilege to request Honorable Mr. Ajit Newart Cabral, State Minister of Money and Capital Market and State and thoughts on this momentous occasion.
Honorable Prime Minister Imran Khan, Honorable Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa. First of all, I want to thank the organizers of this Pakistan-Sri Lanka Trade and Investment Conference for inviting the Sri Lankans to share their cooperation with you. And I believe as you're forward, and I'm eagerly looking. I think it's a privilege when two prime ministers are there. And by 1997, 49 years since our independence, we beat Australia to become the champions. You beat England to become the champions. And those two countries, which were the two countries that started cricket, were both beaten by two countries of the subcontinent, Pakistan and Sri Lanka. So I think we have shown the world that we can do it. And now we are in the process of doing it. But we have not done so well in our cooperation with regard to trade and investment. As your foreign minister just mentioned, the targets that we have set for ourselves seem to be quite low, in my view. We shouldn't be looking at $300, $400 million of trade and investment. We should be looking at a lot more. The relationships that we have, the friendships that we enjoy, the way in which we have cooperated with each other tells us that we should be talking about trade and investment in the billions. Let's see whether today would be the day where we start on that journey, where today we will find ways and means by which we can cooperate to bring up those numbers that we should be actually reaching out to. We can cooperate, Honorable Prime Ministers, in many ways. We all have understood that there is a resource gap within our countries, and that resource gap has to be filled with investment. In the past, in the colonial days, many of those countries that have reached very high per capita incomes today didn't have to have the resource gap filled with investment. They had the ability to go to other people's countries and take resources. And today they have reached the levels that they have. But we have not had that situation. We have to reach out for resources. We have to invite investment. We have to take loans. And we have to reach out and make sure that our countries progress. So let's see how can we do that. We have to make sure that we invest in each other's countries. I was a former governor of the central bank, and my experience there tells me that we have been for a long time investing in the Western countries, investing in A-rated countries, which are given by various rating agencies, and we get 1% return. But when we go to borrow, we pay 7% return. We have to pay a 7% return. So we have, at the outset itself, we have an interest differential of around 6%, which we carry right throughout. So if you have reserves of $10 billion, Honorable Prime Ministers, you will have a 6% negative return on the total reserves that you have. $600 million is a lot of money. So I think we need to now think differently as to how we can cooperate with each other, where we can invest in each other's countries. Your State Bank of Pakistan, our central bank, should now be looking at ways in which we can cooperate. Those are the big tickets in cooperation. We must reach out for trade within our private sectors, no doubt. It's a very important part. But we need to also look at these big tickets where we can make a difference in the way we would do business between countries in the future. Your Prime Minister, Imran Khan, made a fervent plea that there should be a moratorium post-COVID in order to give the support to the countries that need to have some space in order to deal with the pandemic. I don't think it has been responded to sufficiently. Our President himself made that plea. But unlike what happened at the tsunami, immediately after the tsunami, there has been too slow in responding to these calls. If you had 1 year's grace, where all the payments that had to be made in that year to the multilateral institutions could have been postponed by 1 year, it would have meant a huge difference to countries like Pakistan, to countries like Sri Lanka, who had to grapple with the sudden drop in our foreign receipts as a result of the pandemic, where all countries had to suffer. So let's hope that we can work together in achieving that kind of a global outcome, which is essential for the growth of our countries for the future. Pakistan is about a $300 billion economy. We are an $80 billion economy. And I think today, if we can work out schemes where we can have a trade relationship of at least $1 billion and then reach out further, would be a great day for both of us. Let's make it preferred destinations. Let's make Pakistan as preferred destinations from Sri Lanka, and Pakistan in turn to do so for Sri Lanka as well. Let's visit each other. Let's play a little more cricket as well. Maybe club teams, school teams, over 50 teams. Maybe I can also participate then. Women's teams. We can have different types of engagement on that nature. We can have exchange of students. We already have that. We have to be grateful to Pakistan for providing 1,000 scholarships to our own kids who can now study there. Let's make films together. Let's invest in each other's instruments. Let's organize exhibitions. It's not only the trade that we should be looking at. Deeper down cooperation is also essential if we are to make this relationship really what it should be. Sri Lanka is also emerging from economic stagnation, which we have gone through for the last 5 years. And I'm particularly impressed with your foreign minister's position, where we should now move from geopolitics to geoeconomics. And why not? I think that's an excellent trend for us to maintain together. And whilst we are reshaping our economy, we would keep that in mind, Honorable Minister, because I think it would be an important way in which we could make sure that we can take forward our own country's economies. Sri Lanka has been able to go through a difficult period with the COVID pandemic, but yet maintain our low interest rates, maintain our rupee. Gradually appreciating our currency would be one of the steps that we would be taking for the future. A continuous pipeline of investments would be also looked at by us, the same way that you are. So come invest with us as well, the same way that Sri Lankans could invest with you. We have the port city, which is an exciting project. We would like you to come and consider making investments there, taking up positions there. We have the Hambantota industrial zone. I know you have some great industries going in Pakistan. You have the pharma industry, the pharmaceuticals. I met some of them last night, and it was a wonderful conversation that we had. Let's see whether we can have partnerships there, and let's promote a sustainable South-South dialogue and a South-South partnership. One of the best economists of Sri Lanka, way back in the 1980s, Dr. Gamini Korea, who was the Secretary General of UNCTAD, was the man who proposed the South-South cooperation. Unfortunately, that didn't get enough traction. But I think today would be a good day for us to bring that back, take that initiative forward, and that would be a great tribute to a great man, and I think we owe it to him as well as to our own countries. Mr. Prime Ministers, I really appreciate this time and the fact that you have been the first visitor to Sri Lanka to come after the pandemic. We greatly value your steps that you have taken, and we hope that today's event would be the forerunner for a great partnership. I know when you say partnership, you have a different way of looking at it, Honorable Prime Minister. You have been involved in great partnerships. Let's hope that this great partnership would be a truly winning partnership for Sri Lanka and for Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. And now, the moment we have all been waiting for. It is my great honor and privilege to invite His Excellency, Mr. Imran Khan, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, for his address. The Prime Minister of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Prime Minister, ministers, members of the Sri Lankan business community and our visiting businessmen from Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank the Prime Minister for one of the most enjoyable evenings I had in a long time last night. Partly because, of course, Corona, we never had evenings like that. But it was good to see the cultural show and a really relaxed evening, and not to mention the amount of food that I consumed that I haven't had for a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, my motivation in politics was only one: poverty alleviation. I struggled for way back in almost 25 years ago. I entered politics because I felt that the best way to reduce poverty in our country would be to set up a welfare state. Before entering politics, I had built a cancer hospital in Pakistan, and the only reason to build the hospital was that poor people could not afford the very expensive cancer treatment. So therefore, the idea to have a cancer hospital where a poor person could go in and not worry about the expensive treatment. But during that time when I was building the hospital, I began to realize that in a country of right now 220 million people, the only way you can help the majority of the poor people is if you build a welfare state. And so that was the motivation. And today, I must say, I had a very good conversation with the president because I realized that he also was motivated by poverty alleviation. And so the current problem in Pakistan, which we face, is food inflation. And so we were discussing how to bring down the prices of food items. And so we came up, he told me how he went to China, and he actually visited various farms from where he discovered that how the Chinese how they had reduced the gap between the wholesale and the retail. So previously, and in our country right now, what the farmers produce and what that produce is sold in the retail shops, there's a huge gap. And so the Chinese reduced that gap through technology. And so I must say, I thank the president because I'm immediately going to go back and bring in technology to reduce this gap. The other way we can reduce poverty is through investment, is through promoting profitability, business. And so that's my second emphasis right now. We have completely changed our policies in Pakistan, which have sadly been there for almost 40 years, where the mindset was against profitability and obviously against businesses. The whole government structure, the bureaucratic structure evolved such that it was an impediment in the way of investment and the business community. So this whole mindset we have been trying to change in the last 2 years and removing all the impediments, which translates into the expression ease of doing business. And we have really improved 28 spots. We've come down. Our ease of doing business has improved according to the World Bank. And so the whole idea is that we generate wealth, and from that wealth we can then spend on the bottom half of our population and lift them up from poverty, which is actually what China did. And China, I must say, one thing I admire about them is that no country in human history has ever taken out almost 700 million people out of poverty in 30 to 35 years. It's never been done before. And so this is something which, your president and I had a long conversation. And of course, I've been emphasizing since we've come into power. So the reason behind backing our businesses, the business community and investment, is that if the final goal is to alleviate poverty, create wealth, alleviate poverty. The third thing you need to create wealth in any country is stability, is political stability, is having good relationship with your neighbors. Because one thing which Sri Lanka and we have had in common is that whenever you have conflict or terrorism, as Sri Lanka and Pakistan suffered from, then the first thing that it affects is the business climate, is investment, and in your case, tourism. In Pakistan also, but our tourism, of course, is not as developed as in Sri Lanka, but tourism also gets affected, and of course, Sri Lanka has suffered from. So, immediately when I came into power, I approached our neighbor, India, explained to them, to Prime Minister Modi, that the way forward for the subcontinent is for us to resolve our differences through dialogue and then improve our trading relationship and diffuse the tension. I didn't succeed, but I'm optimistic that eventually sense will prevail that the only way we in the subcontinent can get people out of poverty is have trading relationship, improve our trading relationship, live as civilized neighbors like the Europeans live. Germany and France have, God knows how many wars they've fought and how many millions have been killed fighting each other. But today, it's unthinkable for them to have a conflict because they're so interlinked together because of business. They're so interlinked, the trading ties are so strong, and especially after the European Union, that it's unthinkable that these countries could ever have another war. So similarly, my dream for the subcontinent is that we resolve our difference, and our difference is only one. It's the Kashmir issue. All we want is it to be resolved according to the United Nations Security Council resolution. And this can only be resolved through dialogue. What we've seen in the world in the last 20, 30 years, that when you have conflict between nations, it only breeds more conflicts. A nation goes into war to supposedly to solve one problem, they create 5 other problems after that. You have a war and the US goes into Iraq to finish off supposedly Al-Qaeda, but then you have ISIS in return. So conflicts are no way of solving problems. And I again give the example of China because President Xi specifically spoke to me. He said he also has problems with their neighbors. But all these problems are subservient to trade. Everything is subservient to investment and well-being and business. And so the same thing should apply in the subcontinent. We need to resolve our differences through dialogue, not through conflict. Because eventually, when you do not trade, when these huge, the subcontinent with almost 1.3 billion people, imagine the potential it has. It is one of the biggest markets. And the only thing, in my opinion, keeping it where it is right now, unfortunately, is that our inability to resolve our political differences through dialogue. I also feel that, and I want to believe that Pakistan can play its part in reducing the rising tensions between the United States and China. Some 50 years back, it was Pakistan which opened up China for the United States. It was Pakistan who organized the meeting between Henry Kissinger and the Chinese. So we hope that we can again play our part. We'd much rather be a country which, rather than becomes part of rivalries between countries, we actually become a country that brings other nations and humanity together. But we have a relationship that has huge potential for both the countries. From Pakistan point of view, I think the most we can learn from Sri Lanka is in tourism, because you have a much more advanced tourism industry compared to us. Pakistan has enormous potential in tourism, but it's completely, that potential so far is being discovered by local tourism, but not by foreign tourists. Local tourism in Pakistan has exploded. There are not enough hotels, guest houses to accommodate the massive tourism that has gone all over the country, specifically our mountain areas. For those of you who don't know, Pakistan has probably one of the most unique mountain sceneries in the world. Some of the highest peaks out of the 10, 12 peaks, almost half are in Pakistan, and along with the second highest mountain in the world. But it's a virgin territory. And why tourism has exploded in Pakistan? Because of the mobile phone. People go with a mobile phone, take pictures, put it on their Facebook, and that's how tourism has exploded locally. But I have been to a resort in Sri Lanka, and the way Sri Lankan tourism has, is on a different level to us. So therefore, I brought a tourism minister here, and we would like to have contacts with you in developing resorts in most of our, not just mountain areas. Pakistan also has probably the most undiscovered religious tourism. For people in Sri Lanka, what is of great interest is the Gandhara civilization, the Gandhara Buddhist civilization. North of Islamabad was the center of the Buddhist civilization. And we have discovered various new sites for Buddhist tourists to visit Pakistan. We had a group of South Korean monks coming in who now have shown great interest in a trail where we would make it for the Buddhist community to actually make a trail for them all over where they can visit various shrines. We just recently discovered a 40-feet sleeping Buddha in Pakistan, which is quite unique. So apart from mountain tourism and religious tourism, we have a coastline, which is where we can, of course, again learn from Sri Lanka, because you have quite advanced beach tourism. Finally, I would like to ask the business community in Sri Lanka to participate in our CPEC project. CPEC is an initiative of the BRI, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. And it opens the opportunity, as our Commerce Minister just mentioned earlier, that it opens the opportunity of Sri Lankan businesses right up to Central Asia. It gives you an opportunity of connecting from Gwadar, which is the port, right up to Uzbekistan and the Central Asian states. And this is the connectivity which Pakistan offers, along with, in CPEC, we have these special economic zones, which give incentives to businesses to set up industry there. So I invite the Sri Lankan businesses, investors, businessmen. You can come over to Pakistan, and we'll be hosting you. Meanwhile, we brought our Pakistan business community, top businessmen here, who will be interacting with you and discussing various ways which would be of mutual benefit to both of us, both the countries. I again thank the Prime Minister for inviting me to Sri Lanka. I extend my invitation to you, Mr. Prime Minister. We look forward to seeing you. And finally, about cricket, I saw the evolution of Sri Lankan cricket team from a non-test playing country into a country that actually won the World Cup in my hometown. And I never thought I would see that happen. But the emergence of the Sri Lankan cricket team was actually, for us in the subcontinent, a source of great pride, because it meant that it was another team which could challenge the best. And yes, the answer about more interaction in sporting relationship, yes, because nothing improves the standard in countries more than when you have countries playing each other in various sports. Number one, cricket, because this is a passion in both the countries. But in Pakistan, our squash teams have been of very high quality, and of course, our hockey team. So we would start our interaction in these areas too. Later on, of course, I'm going to a sports event, so I'll talk more about it there later on. Again, thank you. I want to thank our Ministry of Commerce and our Foreign Office for organizing this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Now, moving on with today's proceedings, I would now like to request Mr. Muhammad Humair Kareem, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Commerce. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay seated as we continue with our program. Ladies and gentlemen, the dignitaries will be back after seeing off the Prime Minister of Pakistan and the Prime Minister of Sri Lanka. So please stay seated. We'll continue with the program in a short while. Ladies and gentlemen, kindly stay seated as we will proceed with the presentations shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay seated and stay calm. We'll just proceed with the proceedings shortly, please. Kindly take your seats, please.
Hear me now? Just for clarification, the Prime Minister has gone to meet a group of business people, so that's why he has gone. And that was actually part of the program, but unfortunately wasn't properly announced. But the Prime Minister, what we will now do is there will be two presentations on trade and investments. After that, there will be lunch, and after lunch, there will be the B2B sessions. So let us start the whole program.
Moving on with today's proceedings, I would now like to request Mr. Muhammad Humair Kareem, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Commerce, Government of Pakistan, to share his presentation on bilateral trade relations between Sri Lanka and Pakistan.
I begin? No, I'm just waiting for them, actually. Okay. So may I have permission to begin, sir? May I start, sir? Right, sir. The Honorable Advisor to the Prime Minister on Commerce and Investment, Mr. Abdul Razak Dawood, the Chairman, Board of Investment, the Secretary, Commerce, Mr. Swaleh Farooqi, the Secretary, Board of Investment, Ms. Farina Mazhar, senior government officials, the Secretary, Ministry of Trade, Sri Lanka, business representatives from Pakistan and Sri Lanka, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, Assalamu alaikum. I would be making a presentation on Pakistan-Sri Lanka trade relations, avenues and opportunities. The scheme of my presentation, basically I'll be covering it in 4 different components. I will be giving a brief overview of the economic profile of Pakistan, the liberal policy environment that has been created for trade, an overview of Pak-Sri Lanka bilateral relations, and the challenges and way forward to fully realize the true potential that exists between Pakistan and Sri Lanka as far as trade is concerned. Ladies and gentlemen, first, the economic profile of Pakistan. Pakistan has an impressive economic profile. We have a GDP of approximately $300 billion. Our inflation has been brought down and now stands at around 8.6%. We have exports which are growing and currently stand at around $21 billion. Pakistan offers several economic strengths, as you can see from the present slide behind myself. I'll mention just a few. Pakistan offers the shortest route to Afghanistan, the landlocked Central Asia, and land route to China. The Gwadar seaport is the world's largest deep sea port. Pakistan offers a big market of more than 200 million people. It has the largest lignite coal reserves. It has a 3.5 billion cell phones market demand. Pakistan is also the world's 8th largest producer of wheat and the 5th largest producer of sugarcane. These are some of the few that constitute Pakistan's economic strength. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan offers considerable connectivity potential to the landlocked states of Central Asia, to Afghanistan, to the Middle East, and to Africa. With the enhancement of facilities at Gwadar and Karachi ports, the connectivity potential of Pakistan would be further enhanced. This offers businessmen from Sri Lanka considerable potential for export of their goods through Pakistan and to Central Asia and Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Gwadar port potential has the capacity to handle 300,000 metric ton vessel. It is equipped with a bagging plant. It is designed as a deep sea port which offers maximum draft to handle motherships. Through enhancement of facilities at Gwadar port, the connectivity to China and Afghanistan would be further enhanced. Pakistan is one of the few countries in the world, ladies and gentlemen, which offers a complete value chain in textiles, beginning with raw cotton, ginning, spinning, knitting, leading to processing, stitching, fashion, and marketing. It offers a complete value chain. Over the next few slides, I will be talking about the key sectors in terms of exports for Pakistan. One of the prime sectors is the textile sector, which offers exports of nearly 13 billion US dollars. This constitutes approximately 58% of the national exports and amounts to around 8.5% share in the gross domestic product. There are several categories of exports of textiles, as you can see from the slide, which includes knitwear, bedwear, and other things. Then we have Pakistan's growing pharmaceutical sector, which provides high-quality essential drugs at affordable prices to millions. It meets around 70% of the country's demand. Pakistan adheres strictly to the World Health Organization standards and good manufacturing practices and is home to 25 multinational corporations dealing with pharmaceuticals. Pakistan's cement sector is strong. Its operational capacity of the cement factory is estimated to be between 46 to 49 million tons, aiming to doubling this. The product ranges in the cement sector include Portland cement, clinkers, block and sulfate-resistant cement. Pakistan's cement sector continues to enhance its competitive edge, with the players in the cement sector enhancing their cumulative production capacity to exploit the economies of scale. Pakistan's overall cement exports in the last year alone have increased by nearly 22%. Ladies and gentlemen, an important sector, the auto sector of Pakistan. The government of Pakistan, in order to promote the auto sector, has given several incentives. I'll mention a few. The import of localized parts at 25% duty for a period of 3 years for the manufacturing of cars and local commercial vehicles. Concessional customs duty at 10% on non-localized parts for a period of 5 years for manufacturing of cars and LCVs. The percentage of parts manufactured locally in Pakistan has been rising steadily, with approximately 70% in cars and over 90% in two-wheelers, just to mention a few. Pakistan's exports of the auto sector are now standing at $175 million, exporting to around 57 countries. Major automobile brands are setting up their assembly plants in Pakistan in the recent years. And IT sector, Pakistan's IT sector continues to grow. Its export stands at $2.4 billion. The government has placed enhanced focus on the IT sector with its emphasis through the Digital Pakistan policy, which focuses on Pakistan becoming a strategic enabler for an accelerated digitization complete ecosystem to expand the knowledge-based economy. Ladies and gentlemen, the government of Pakistan is committed to enhancing the business environment in Pakistan. In fact, the Prime Minister, in his very inaugural speech, mentioned his commitment to improve the business climate. As a result, now Pakistan is ranked the 6th biggest performer as far as doing business is concerned, according to a World Bank study. The government of Pakistan continues to create an enabling environment for business, offering several incentives. This includes liberal bank financing, liberal export financing schemes, long-term financing facility, duty drawback on local taxes and levies, plus availability of raw material within the ambit of a liberal import policy. And then, of course, to ensure price and quality competitiveness, there's renewed, or rather reinforced focus on training, entrepreneurship, and technology. Pakistan is going to be on a high growth trajectory. According to the Center of International Development, in its latest report, the economic complexity global growth projections ranks Pakistan amongst the fastest growing economies by 2025, with a projected annual growth rate of approximately 6%. Pakistan is home to many multinational businesses. As you can see on the slide behind me, it is home to Citibank, Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, just to mention a few. As you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, in the last 1 year, the entire world, the economies, social life has been completely disrupted due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Pakistan has adopted, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, has adopted a very wise and prudent COVID-19 strategy to deal with COVID-19, which comprised of not massive lockdowns, but smart and micro-smart lockdowns across the country, targeting specific areas where the number of corona cases are rising. Incentives were given to ensure that the industry continues to work. There was gradual opening of commercial and business activities. Fiscal and economic incentive packages provided, which comprised of a special package for the SME sector, and increase in limit of credit extension from 125 million to 180 million. Performance during the COVID-19 period has been impressive as far as exports are concerned. Our exports to many countries have exhibited an improvement. Ladies and gentlemen, now I'll talk about the liberal policy environment that has been created for trade by the government of Pakistan. I'll talk about 3 or 4 policies. One of them is the strategic framework. When it is announced, it is in the offing. It provides for enhancing competitiveness in terms of price and quality, developing a complete export ecosystem which focuses on different components of the export value chain, as well as addressing the regulatory compliances that are required the world over. Some of the subcomponents of these are the plans to develop sector-specific policies on rice, leather, chemicals, horticulture, agriculture growth development, sector-specific council to be established for priority sectors. These are some of the actionables which would be involved in implementation of the STPF, the Strategic Trade Policy Framework. We have the national tariff policy. Important component of that is the realization that tariff is to be used as an instrument of trade policy instead of revenue generation. There's enhanced competitiveness through duty-free access to imported raw materials, as well as time-bound protection to nascent industries. Some of the milestones achieved under the national tariff policy include 93% of the tariff lines come under the 0 to 20% slabs. There's 9% average effective duty rate of duty, 7.5% on non-agri products, removal of duties on 164 tariff lines, and reduction of duties on 154 tariff lines of raw materials and chemicals, which are quite significant. Then we have the textile and apparel policy, which would be encouraging prioritization, the SME sector, going for product diversification, maximizing utilization of the man-made fiber rather than raw cotton, making industry internationally competitive in terms of price and quality. The e-commerce policy was announced about a year and a half back. It focuses on financial inclusion and payment digitization. It has several pillars: rationalization of the tax structure, encouraging people to use e-commerce, while at the same time ensuring that the rights are fully protected through consumer protection courts and laws. Then there's the transshipment policy, which is in the offing. It offers several advantages. Through its ports, it offers lower monetary costs associated with handling charges and port dues, making the ports more competitive and efficient through enhancing their capacity and reducing the cost of operation. Facilitative government regulations are part of this transshipment policy. The policy also calls for accessibility of hub port with low maritime deviation. This is an important policy which the government of Pakistan is working on and which will be brought out shortly, and it will further enhance the connectivity potential of Pakistan to different countries like Central Asia and Afghanistan. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan has undertaken several market access initiatives. The first one was with Sri Lanka back in the year 2005, when the Sri Lankan Free Trade Agreement was operationalized in 2005. It has free trade agreements with many other countries like China, Malaysia, Indonesia, Mauritius. We also have we also are benefiting from the generalized system of preference of the European Union, which is the EU GSP Plus scheme. As a result of that scheme, there's been a 50% increase in exports of textiles and apparel since 2014. We have a similar scheme with the United States. And because of that, we have an 81% increase in exports since 2013. The United Kingdom, after the exit from the European Union, has committed to maintain the current level of support to Pakistan that is also available, that is also available under the European Union GSP Plus scheme. Ladies and gentlemen, now an overview of Pakistan-Sri Lanka bilateral trade relations. Pakistan, as the advisor stated in his speech, Pakistan's trade with Sri Lanka, the trade between the two countries, has grown considerably since 2005 when the FTA was signed, but it remains below potential, and a lot of work can be done to fully realize the true potential of trade between the two countries. Currently, the trade between the two countries stands around $370 million. Pakistan's key exports to Sri Lanka include cement, which amount to 15% of its exports, woven cotton fabrics, potatoes, medicaments, and many other items. And I'm also flashing Sri Lanka's exports to Pakistan, which basically focus on vegetable products, fiberboard or board, natural rubber, and Brazil nuts and cashew nuts. Pakistan-Sri Lanka FTA, as we have said, was operationalized in 2005, but this basically represented a win-win situation for both countries, as both countries liberalized 90% of the tariff lines. Maximum tariff-related benefits were provided for both countries, but potential is far more what has been so far realized. Market, like I said, it offers a win-win situation. Market access have been granted by both countries to each other's products, by Sri Lanka to many products, by Pakistan to many products like vegetables, tea, cereals, and spices. This slide, ladies and gentlemen, talks about what the actual exports are in different sectors and what the actual potential is. I'll mention a few in the interest of time. For example, Portland cement, current exports stand around $41 million, as we may have a potential of more than additional $68 million. Then we have potatoes, similar. The bar in blue indicates the actual exports, and the bar in green indicates the potential that can be realized between the two countries for each of those product items. Similar is the case for Sri Lanka's products that are being exported to Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, there are several challenges. We have done a lot of good work as a result of the FTA, under the garb of the FTA between the two countries. Several challenges remain, and which we can work to address in order to realize the full potential. Benefits of these FTA have not been realized despite the high complementarity. Potential sectors including service and investment remain unexploited. There are existence of para-tariffs in the shape of additional customs duties and regulatory duties such as cess on cement and other regulatory duties on Pakistani products. There's standardization and compliance issues. There's an absence of an appropriate mechanism for addressing trade disputes and operational issues. There's limited interaction at the business to business and the government to government. And this forum, this first trade investment conference, as well as the business to business meetings that are going to be held after this, offer significant opportunities to bridge this gap. Now, after challenges, we come with a way forward to address those challenges and to move on. The adoption of the MRA, the Mutual Recognition Agreement, will go a long way in sorting issues relating to standardization and compliance that exist on both sides. Elimination of para-tariffs will again go a long way. We need to have a mutually agreed upon mechanism to resolve trade disputes so that trade disputes are resolved in a timely manner, allowing trade to progress smoothly. We need to enhance trade promotion activities through greater contact, and B2B is one example that is going to take place today. We need to have memorandums of understanding between key government and private sector institutions in the field of trade and investment. MOU between Trade Development Authority and Sri Lankan Export Development requires to be activated. Recently, we had discussions at the Secretary's level, Secretary Commerce level talks, and we agreed to reactivate the joint working groups that exist on trade and investment. We'll have two joint working groups, one on trade investment and the auto sector, and the other one on customs cooperation, and we agreed to have them in the first half of this year. The chapter on trade and services, because currently the services and investment has been unexploited. So chapter on trade and services is proposed to be included in the Pakistan-Sri Lanka Free Trade Agreement to facilitate tourism, information technology, and other services. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I conclude my presentation. I thank you all for very patient listening. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. May I now request Ms. Farina Mazhar, Secretary, Board of Investment, Pakistan, to deliver her presentation on the investment opportunities between Pakistan and Sri Lanka, and to also highlight the investment potential of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor for Sri Lankan investors.
Honorable Advisor on Commerce and Investments, Chairman Board of Investment, Honorable Secretary Commerce, other political and official from both the countries, and business delegates, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. I will start my presentation with a short video.
There is something about Pakistan, something magical. There is something about its peaks, the lakes, the valleys, the deserts, the golden beaches, and the exotic cuisine. It is a land rich in history, standing tall and proud. The remnants of ancient glories serve as reminders of where we came from. In the home of centuries-old civilizations, where natural and man-made wonders are plenty, there's a touch of warmth everywhere you go. The culture befriends every soul, makes you feel at home at every step. It is not a place short of hospitality, not a place far from home. It is a place of love and acceptance, of embracing our differences and celebrating our love, with the government's keen focus on expanding its tourism and hospitality sector. It has made visiting and investing in Pakistan all the more easier. Pakistan now offers e-visa facility to over 170 countries and visa on arrival to the citizens of 50 countries. Invest in the next big tourist destination of the world in sectors such as hospitality, hoteling, accommodation, attraction development, because in the end, there is just something special about Pakistan. BOI, your gateway to investment in Pakistan.
Thank you. So, like any investment promotion agency, the prime responsibility of the Board of Investment is the promotion of investments, and we also try to facilitate both domestic and foreign investors. The foreign investors are our prime focus, and we serve as a one window to all their business requirements. The CPAC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, is the last leg of the road and BRI initiative of China. And we are very proud of the fact that there is a very significant development made under CPAC. Even China calls it their flagship project. So we are the Secretariat for the Industrial Cooperation under CPAC. We're also responsible for improving the business climate in the country. And for that, we are making massive improvements in the regulations, simplifications, and also electronically filing of various documents. The special economic zones are again very attractive. We have state-of-the-art infrastructure available in these zones, and we also offer very lucrative tax and other concessions for investments in these economic zones. So why should you invest in Pakistan? There are 5 most important reasons. The very liberal investment policy. I will talk about the investment policy in a subsequent slide also. So we have a very young population. Around 64% of the population is less than 30 years of age. So we are the second youngest country in the region next to Afghanistan. And we are developing their skills so that they are able to meet the requirements of the modern economies of the world. Geostrategically located, we are at the crossroads of South, West, and Central Asia, giving access to the landlocked Central Asian republics, to China. So whoever comes here will find Pakistan a natural business hub. The economic outlook is very positive, as the government has made special policies for the monetary and physical improvement in the country. And we see that there is an improvement in the trade deficit, the physical deficit, and the investments coming in the country. The special economic zones, like I mentioned earlier, provide lucrative incentives and welcome all the investors in the country. So we have a very liberal investment regime. All sectors are open for investment. There is no restriction. Then there is no distinguishment between the local and the foreign investors. All investors are treated equally. You can invest in any business with 100% equity. You don't need to have a local partner. Then you can send your money back home or wherever you want to. There is no restriction on that. And borrowing facilities from both local and foreign banks is allowed to all investors. So this is one of the best investment regimes that a country can offer. We also make sure that we protect the investments of foreigners in the country, and this is done through the bilateral investment treaties and avoidance of double taxation treaties. We've signed 48 treaties of bilateral investment trade, and we've signed agreements of avoidance of double taxation with 52 countries, and with Sri Lanka we have both. This is something I'm really very proud of, something which has been close to my heart. Pakistan has improved 39 positions in the last 2 years in terms of the ease of doing business ranking as measured by the World Bank in its annual report. And BOI, being the secretariat of this ranking, is making sure that we make a constant improvement. This year, again, we are expecting a big jump. The report is probably going to be announced on the 11th of March, and we are very hopeful that we'll make significant improvement this year as well. So the future reform agenda, we are continuing our reform initiatives, like I mentioned earlier, and we are working towards development of a Pakistan business portal. This is going to be ready in the next 2 years, and once this portal is ready, then all registration and all payments could be made electronically on the portal. So that will be a one-stop shop for all investors and businessmen, not only from within the country, but also abroad. We've created a database of all the incentives which the government has offered in various sectors, not just the federal government, but also the provincial governments. So the Board of Investment's website is very informative. If you go, you can find all the incentives available in different sectors on the website. And we've also created a database for the investment projects. All the investment projects which the government is offering are there available on the database. If you go, you can find them sector-wise and also amount-wise. So they're available on our website. So government has given special incentives to the priority sectors. We have identified the priority sectors for us and for the special economic zones. One thing that I'd like to make clear is that there are 9 special economic zones which will be set up under CPAC, and 4 of them have already been approved and are operational. But all investors are welcomed to invest in these zones. They are not China-specific. Local as well as foreign investors are equally welcomed to come and enjoy the benefits that they offer. So these are the priority sectors: food processing, logistics, textile, automobile, information technology, housing and construction, tourism, and hospitality. For information technology, we offer zero income tax on IT and IT-enabled services of exports till 2025. And there are other incentives also, as you can see on the screen. For textile sector, there's a duty-free import of plant and machinery, low tariff and exemptions on exports due to the GSP Plus status, zero custom duty for textile products for exports to China, duty drawback of Texas long-term financing facility at concessional rates. The ready-made garment industry has emerged as one of the important small-scale industries in Pakistan. These ready-made garments and products have huge demand both at home and abroad. Tourism sector, I've already shown you the video, so I don't have to say much about that. We offer the e-visa facility for 175 countries and visa on arrival for 50 countries. So you can see the potential that Pakistan has on the left side of the screen. And the incentives that we are offering include reduced rate of custom duties on import of capital goods, concessional rate of custom duties on import of ingredients for preparation of value-added chicken products, exemptions on income tax for the food processing and beverage sector, and not to mention that Pakistan, there is a huge potential in the halal food market. So you can think of investing in that. So housing and construction sector, all my other colleagues have mentioned this sector. This is very close to the Prime Minister's heart, and he's announced an incentive package of 100 billion to build affordable houses with a fixed tax regime, reduced advance tax on auction of sale, reduction in tax liability for low-cost housing, exemption of capital gains tax, and banks to increase their credit for financing the sector, and exemption of withholding tax on purchase of building materials. In the logistics sector, the incentives include custom duty, sales tax, and advanced income tax exemption on import of aircraft and related items, sales tax and custom duty exemption on import of ships, other floating and specialized crafts, 0% sales tax on supply, repairs, spare parts for ships, income tax exemption up to 2030 on the income of ships and other floating crafts. There's no sound for the video.
Supplies to international brands like Nike, Adidas, Reebok, H&M, Target. Our country enjoys a competitive advantage in the industry. There are 423 textile units in the country with a complete value chain: ginning, spinning, weaving, and knitting. The industry consists of sophisticated technology required to upkeep production levels of great magnitude. Textile industry of Pakistan has a supply base for almost all man-made and natural yarns and fabrics and employs 40% of the total workforce. The government is offering attractive duty and tax concessions in the shape of various duty-free and export-oriented schemes that have seen export volumes soar to record levels in recent months. With investor confidence and the industry growing together, Pakistani textile industry is poised to reach new heights of success and prosperity. BOI, your gateway to investment in Pakistan. Pakistan has a thriving young population ready to steer the country to the frontier of economic success. With 2,000 IT companies, more than 300,000 English-speaking IT experts, and 20,000 IT graduates entering the job market each year, Pakistan is poised to take its place as one of the market leaders in IT and its related sectors. Government of Pakistan's Digital Pakistan policy has created an extensive digital ecosystem. The country is overall ranked 4th in the global market for freelance development, earning $1.2 billion US, and Pakistan's IT exports alone have marked a 70% rise in the last 3 years. The startup culture in Pakistan is gaining a strong foothold owing to our young, technologically literate and skilled population.
It's been an honor and a privilege to work with young founders and technology startups as early as 2016 when we conceived the idea. And today, mashallah, we've had the opportunity to work with hundreds of different companies and thousands of young technology founders. It would be pertinent to mention that this is actually a government building. So we're very fortunate to work with the Ministry of IT, the government of Pakistan.
With Pakistan government offering strong incentives for investors in the IT field, the sector is bound to see unprecedented growth in the coming years. These include attractive tax breaks and concessions on IT and IT-enabled services, startups and computer equipment, as well as a host of other incentives. Come and join us in our exciting journey towards innovation by investing in these areas of the Pakistan IT industry. BOI, your doorway to investment in Pakistan.
The special economic zone regimes, the special economic zones can be developed through private sector, public-private partnership. The objective is to create an industrial cluster and infrastructure to meet competitiveness and offering very liberal incentives. So the incentives that are offered in the economic zones include custom duty exemption on import of capital goods, income tax exemption for 10 years for both the developer and the zone enterprise, and state-of-the-art infrastructure facilities including electricity and gas. There are 22 economic zones which have been notified so far, and the area which they cover is 15,625 acres. Out of these 22, 4 are under CPAC, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. So this slide, I think, has been shown earlier also. We are home to renowned multinationals. I would take this opportunity and request our friends from Sri Lanka to consider possibility of having joint ventures in developing training institutes, especially for the apparel and the housing and construction industry. So thank you so much for a patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ladies and gentlemen, before breaking for lunch, let me inform the respected guests that we have the privilege of having amongst us 39 leading business delegates from Pakistan across sectors including textiles, pharmaceuticals, agriculture and food commodities, tourism, information and communications technology, minerals, footwear, auto parts, and journal trading. I urge you to visit the adjacent hall for a B2B session with Pakistani delegates for a fruitful business networking event starting right after lunch around 2 p.m. Thank you very much.